Hello, it's Shaggy SoCal with 2Old4Forza, and time for the next season of Thursday Night Thunder. And it's been, last season finished 2 weeks ago at Le Mans, and congratulations, Rodeo, on winning the TNT 40 championship. I think he was like by 1 point over Bradger. A lot of fun. That car's a lot of fun to drive. Tricky at times, but for this season, for season 41. We're gonna go and we're gonna now drive something that a little bit slower and a little bit more stable, but I think will be a lot more fun. I think it'll definitely provide some close racing. So we'll go from that S class tuned Ford GT40. We're gonna go into this D class Honda CRX. Um, so let me just kind of get right to it. It's going to be kind of the standard format. I'll run a couple of sample laps here, do a slow lap around, just kind of point out. Again, the point is just to kind of talk about how I approach the track, what I look for, what I'm trying to do with the car, what the car wants to do. Just to give you guys some little extra info as you practice, and then I'll do a mock race to kind of throw the track guide into practice, and then with some questionable racecraft against the AI, and see where things are at. But with that, let me just go ahead and get started in test drive mode. Oh, before I do that, I got to make my life a little easier as I'm doing the slow lap test. Okay, one thing I want to point out, we're definitely doing front wheel drive this season, and I think Sonoma is a really good track to start the season off with, just because of all the elevation changes and the cresting corners. You're really, by the end of this race, you're really going to get a good idea of what the back end of this car is going to do. The first thing I'm going to point out is it takes a bit for the rear tires to come up to temperature, which means the back of the car is going to be a little more slidey than it will be once the tires are up to temperature. And that usually has been happening right about, as you're heading towards the carousel. You can see they're all, none of them are blue. Tire wear won't be an issue. Tire fuel, I don't think will be an issue. And I think because this car's in a lower class, I don't think there's one definitive line that you need to run. Just because it's a slower car, there's probably multiple lines to get through the corner. Maybe there is one ideal one, but we'll have to see how that plays out in the race. And down to the final corner. Ooh, we're not running damage. That would have hurt the transmission. Okay, so that's kind of an example lap of Infineon, or Sonoma, or whatever it's called now. All right, so for the slower lap, you're going to cross. What I plan on doing is, again, you're in fourth gear, you're crossing start finish. On my own, as soon as I cross start finish line, I'm starting to turn the car left, and you've got this yellow line that kind of, and I'm guessing that yellow line is meant to kind of, I guess in race conditions, say, stay to the right of that. That's kind of the apex. Maybe it's trying to leave a little room for pit exit. But I kind of ignored that. For me, at least the way the track, the track limit guide is, I'm going to turn in and cross over the yellow line here and get as close to the wall as I dare. Let the car out, still in fourth gear, still in full throttle, and I'll probably rejoin the braking line in and around here. For the turn in to go up the hill, you're going to be able to leave it on throttle a little bit, but you can kind of see, I don't know what that pylon thing is exactly, Usually for me, as that's going out of view, it's usually in fourth gear, just a little lift, of the throttle, and just watch my throttle traces, down there at the bottom right. When I get to this point, and I'm starting to go up the hill because I am backing out of the throttle a little bit, and you're going to be doing a lot of that here at Sonoma, where you're just going to crack the throttle a little bit just to give the front tires a little bit more bite, since they're not trying to propel the car forward, to get the car in the position you need to be in. You also use it sometimes to also kick the back end out a little bit, or at least for me. So again, I'll lift a little bit, roll back in, but what I'm trying to do is you can kind of see where you have the cones here, the 3, 2, 1 cones. So where those 2 cones are is about where I'm going to try and get the car, positioned for I guess this is turn 2 here, and um, for me, ideally it's like I'm going to try and be left of what the braking line is going to show you. Definitely, I don't want to be. So I think for me, it's like either I want to try and be as far left as I can, but I'm not going to be any further right than what the line shows. If you're all the way on the right side of the track at this point, you're severely going to compromise your exit. You're going to get way slowed down for the next turn, and you're going to compromise your exit, and then not carry all that speed, uh, you know, over the next couple of crests. So again, try to get the cars over to the left as you can. It's a brief break, downshift to third, and then turn in. You might feel the back end kick out a little bit. Again, this cresting turn crest, so you might feel as you kind of come over the rise here, you might feel the back end kick out a little bit. But again, it's a front wheel drive car, so the second the back end starts to slide on you, you just start rolling back into the throttle and let the front wheel drive kind of pull you out of the slide. But I will say is once the rears are up to temperature, that back end will slide out a little bit, but it's not going to snap on you, and you can actually, as you get used to, play around with the throttle, you can get that back end working for you to help rotate the car in the corners. So still in third gear here, rolling back into the throttle, bring it all the way out to the left side here, maybe get on the curve a little bit, bring it back across. In other cars, I will abuse this curb, as far as getting on it or crossing over it. This car, probably not so much, but you can almost get your right sides on the other side of this curbing here, but you do want to set up wide to the right here for this next turn in. This one I don't have anything I specifically look for, as far as an additional marker, as far as when to turn in or what I'm doing. I'm really just kind of focusing in where that inside curbing is heading up the hill. And this is one, again, it's a left-right combo. So I'm gonna ease off the gas and turn the car in. I might get on this curbing a little bit, but I'm trying to keep it to the left here. More often than not, I'll probably be in the middle of the track on my own. But this is one of my places where, in traffic, I would try to set up a pass. Not so much going into this next corner, but if I find that the guy or the car in front of me, if it looks like just based off their positioning that they're going to go wide, on the exit of this next corner, wide left, I might try and compromise this part to get as far to the left as possible, and then cut the next corner so I exit either in the middle of the track or on the right side, heading down the hill, for the next braking zone. It's a good place to take a look, and certainly if the guy goes wide and he goes off, then you've set up correctly. But so coming up here, it'll be another. I won't even brake. It's just going to be ease off the throttle, maybe get on this curve a little bit, roll back in as I crest the hill. Right about here, depending on how much steering you have in, as you're rolling back in the throttle, you may feel the back end slide out a little bit. That's fine. You're going to be rolling back into the throttle. It'll straighten the car out. You'll hear it. Also, if you listen to what the tires are doing when I'm driving and not in traffic, you'll hear the back tires and slide about a bit. Braking for this next turn, because I know how we are. It is about where the 50 board is. But I guarantee you that 50 board's not going to be there probably by the end of the race. Um, I don't have any other telltales as far as kind of static track markers as far as braking for the corner. I mean, you can kind of say that the braking is probably about halfway between the end of this curbing, and and where you would turn in. But that one you're going to have to do by feel, unfortunately, if that 50 board's gone. But again, it's brake down to second gear, ease off the gas, roll in. You can use a little bit of that curbing. It's nice to have a car that isn't so curb sensitive. Rolling back in, third gear, fourth gear. Usually I keep it to the inside here a little bit, bring about mid-track, bring the car back a little bit. Now heading into the carousel, again, we're in D-class cars, so a lot of the braking is a lot later than we're used to. I'm braking at the 50 board, and it is really just a quick on the brakes, downshift to third, and as I'm braking and downshifting to third, I'm already starting to point the car to the inside of the corner, release off the throttle in third, and then just at this point, I'm barely on the gas. I might be feathering it slightly just to kind of figure out where the grip is, how much grip the front tires have. But I'm going to just try and keep the car on the inside as we go down the carousel. Again, as you turn in and then you start to go into the downhill, you might feel the back end. Again, it's another area where the rear is going to get a little light and you're going to feel it slide out a little bit. Again, the tires should be up to temp, so it's not going to, you trust that it's not going to fully rotate on you. And just know that if it starts to, just give it a little gas, let the front of the car pull the back in line. But again, kind of just staying off throttle, feathering it. It's the second I see the inside curbing for the last part of the carousel, that's when I'm going to really start rolling back in and trying to get back to full throttle as early as I can. That I think is going to be the biggest key for this car. It's a momentum car, not a lot of horsepower. So the sooner you can get back to throttle, the faster you're going to be down at the other end of the straight. Certainly, then if you can get back on full throttle before the guy in front of you, you have shots at taking and making passes. So again, try to get back into full throttle. Still trying to keep it. I usually really keep it to the left as much as I can. The transition back out of the carousel onto what is the end. I think the end of the drag strip here. You'll see it. It kind of crowns a little bit. Doesn't really upset the car at all. I don't think you shouldn't feel the back end kick out. But again, you'll crest over. You can bring it most of the way out to the right here. Back up to fourth. Heading into, and again, you get a good run out of the carousel. This is another good place to try and make a pass into the corner or set up coming out of this next I'm calling it hairpin. I mean, I think technically it's two distinct corners, but you're going to take it as one. Braking for this next turn. Usually, I use the billboards to kind of gauge where I'm braking at, and for this one, usually it's this red one here that you can't see the front of. But again, we're in much slower cars. I'm actually braking. I'm not even trying to read the sign. I just see the main color it is blue. So it's the Sunoco billboard for me. As far as trying to gauge that with the braking line, that's the billboard I'm going to look for. The other thing, once you're up to speed, is this red one. These initial few billboards always seem to stick out further than the ones behind it. You can kind of see how the ones towards the end of the billboard road are pushed back a little bit. That's the other thing I also key off of. So as I'm passing red, I'll see the Sunoco blue, this is about where I'm braking. Down to second gear. Turn in again. You can hug this inside curbing. What I'm trying to do and I think I've been taking this a little wider mid corner because you're doing one nice arc. But what I'm trying to do is the second I see that inside curbing, I'm trying to get back to full throttle, and it's like even to the point then fine if I'm going to spin the inside front tire, great. I'm trying to get back to full throttle here, and ideally flip it. Maybe just flip the curbing there and bring it all the way out to the left side. But again, the sooner when you brake for that turn and you get the car turned in, the second that you can see that inside curbing, start trying to roll back in as early as possible. You might need to give it a little more steering, kind of force the car through there. You might crack the throttle a little bit, again, just to give the fronts a little more grip. But again, you want to get back to full throttle as soon as you can. Now we're heading down into the S's, and the line I usually take if I'm on my own, I'll be all the way to the inside here. I'm going to try and take it as straight as possible. So I'll flip this curbing here a little bit. I will abuse this one. Again, I'm going to risk track limits, but you'll see me clip this, and it's basically I'm just kind of straight lining it. Because if I do that, it keeps me to the right side a little bit to open this corner up. This one, if you get the turn in right, you can take flat. Usually what I'll do is I'll probably just do a little quick off on. And even then, the off on, just watch my throttle there, throttle trace at the bottom right. When I'm saying off on, I'm not going. I don't believe I'm going all the way off the throttle here, but it's just enough to give me that little bit of extra steering in. But the goal is that if I'm going to hit the curbing, I'm going to hit the curbing late at the end of this. Try and keep it mid-track at best. Well, at worst. Maybe a little bit to the left. Turn in for here. You are going to need to lift. Maybe touch the brakes a little. Usually I'm trying to aim to hit the inside curbing at the beginning of this curbing. And then roll back into the throttle and let the car carry out here to the left side as I start to head down the hill. Now this is where, and usually I'll keep it to the left side as much as possible. I may bring it out a little bit and start to bring it back. This is where I majorly differ from what the suggested line shows. And to play around with this, find out what's comfortable for you. Because I've tried the line that they suggest. I don't like it. Just the suggested line is going to have you as you come down to this corner for the fast right-hander for the blast to the hairpin. They kind of want you more on the right side for a right-hand turn and to kind of brake and go through there. I don't like that because I think it's because you're so far to the inside and you want to carry as much momentum through as possible, that the tendency will be is that you're going to go really wide on exit. So I've tried it. I may try it just for giggles in the race. Maybe it's a little smoother. I don't know, but it was not comfortable for me. So what I tend to do is bring the car down. I'm going to try and line it up on this inside curbing, and I'm gonna barely in this. I don't have time to watch it, but I'm definitely barely touching. I'm barely touching the brake. You can kind of see it's like I might even just put that much of a brake. It's almost like a cadence thing. It's really not a lot of braking, but I'll just brush the brakes here, leave it. I think I'm still in fourth at this point. You'll feel the front end kind of buck down a little bit, but I'd rather be here and make the turn in, try to get it to this inside curb and be back on the throttle down towards the final turn here. I don't, and again, I think that might just be, and for me, it doesn't matter what car what drivetrain it is or like that. That's usually the line I take through there. I think it's quicker. At least it's more comfortable for me. But again, um, my guide is not gospel. I'm just telling you what I do. You can sort out if what I do works for you and helps you out. But coming down to the last turn, still in fourth gear. For the braking line, I usually kind of use these billboards as kind of additional reference as far as where to brake. And usually it's like, oh, start of the Toyota halfway through. The Toyota sign, 9 times out of 10 is what I'm using. But again, we're in much slower cars, so I'm actually not really getting on the brakes until I'm till about halfway past it, till about half the whites. What is this? Save Mart, Shop Smart, Shop S Mart. So about halfway through this Save Mart, Supermart's billboard is where I'm braking for the final turn. And fourth gear, down to second, I might start to cheat a little bit to the inside. Again, this is probably where most of us are going to attempt to make passes, especially if we get a really good run out of the that right hand sweeper. Down to second gear, and hug the inside. Maybe bring the car out a little bit, bring it back, roll back into throttle as early as I can. Let the car carry out. Bring it back to the right a little bit. And again, you can for the final turn to start finish, you can clip over this yellow line a little bit if you dare. I do think it is possible here. I need more coffee. I do think it's possible here that you can violate track limits depending on how early you turn in. But you can cross that line if you dare, or just use it as an apex. Then bring the car back out. You're in fourth gear, and you're back at start finish to start another lap. So that's kind of how I approach Sonoma. I'll say this here, and I'll say it at the end here. I did for this series because it's D class, and who does rivals in D class really? I find that I had not set any times for any of the season's tracks in D class, so I do have an example. I'll call it an example lap in this car around Sonoma. So if you prefer in your practice to do rivals and chase ghosts, you can chase mine if you want to. I prefer free play because I like throwing in AI to try and sort out traffic situations, but that's me. With that, let's go ahead and end the test drive and actually get into a race. And so for today's race, I think just off my own practice that I've done in times like that, I think we're back to the two race 235-minute race format this season. So I think 18 laps is what we'll do. It could be as high as 20. It depends on what Matt's thinking. So I'm going to go a little conservative and say 18 for my practice here. AI opponents this season. I'm going to, in my bucket, I'm going to start at the back, about a minute back. So starting up front, we've got, it's basically hot hatch heaven. Well, mostly hot hatch heaven. So I've got the hot hatch icons that it's the class that the CRX is in from homologation. I'm definitely a bit quicker than them. Right behind them, we're going to have the modern hot hatch starting 20 seconds later. They'll be a little bit quicker. I think those are the two biggest classes I've got. 8, yeah. Actually, no, I think we're pretty even split. But then starting in the back to give me something to chase and work through, and maybe cars a little bit quicker. I'm putting the sport touring icons back there. They'll be again. It's going to be that contrast in styles. They'll kill me on any long straightaway or any straightaway that's long enough. But I should have handling and braking advantage. So we'll see how that plays out in traffic. But again, we'll do 18 laps. See how things go. Oh, one other thing I want to make sure of is, yep, okay, we have the limit driver aggression off, and I think I just want to make sure I got quick stops. Yep, one quick stop. All right, let's get going. Don't know why I'm revving my engine. Habit. Oh, Mustang, couple of Mustangs. Like a Chrysler. Know what that one is. Arrow. Interesting cars there. There goes the second class of hot hatches. Looks like we've got an all-wheel drive. Is that an Audi up front there? Or is that a Subaru? We'll have to see. Wait, and again, didn't really talk about pit in or pit out, but I think the pit in is one of the easiest we'll have in the game. Pit out will be interesting. I think pit out's only going to be interesting if you're exiting the pits in traffic. So we'll see how that plays out. So again, off the start, rear tires are not going to be up to temperature until about the carousel. So they're going to be extra loose on turn in. You can hear them slide there. Again, not really braking, just using the throttle to balance the car. Got there maybe a little too early on the throttle there. You can see how then it just carries the car all the way out wide. So yeah, for me, these opening laps is going to be more hot lapping. Hopefully we'll have some of these guys. Have to pit early. I've got the intervals right. It should have some decent traffic towards this race, not by halfway. That's more the line that I like to take through there. Oh, I have to back a little too quickly. I don't know why I did that. It's back to I can't talk and drive at the same time. Track limits are pretty generous here in most cases, so can use quite a bit sometimes of the inside curbing. You hear the back tires kind of start to squeal and rotate the car a little bit. And don't really need to brake through there. Use the throttle. This pass here. Running a little too early there, but yeah, and that turn in is, I'm kind of looking to apex that corner where that inside curving starts. I think that's, if you're kind of on the curving right where it starts on that inside, I think that's a good way to kind of gauge your turn. And again, I can't talk to it at the same time. Let's see what that looks like time through. Catching him, not that quickly though. Oh, wow. Huh, I'm a stuck. Can't say I've ever seen an AI get stuck there. We'll see if he's there next lap or if he's got it sorted out. I almost want to. I'm half tempted to save the replay just to see how he got into that situation. Just having to crack the throttle just a little bit to make sure that I've got a good line exiting the corner. I hope that I would get a clean lap this lap, but don't think that's going to happen. Could go dirty. No, I'll probably get it dirtied by the draft. See, I can't talk and drive at the same time. Got the back end loose, but again, just had to roll right back into the throttle and straighten the car out. Because I instinctively upshifted to fifth when it's like, no, leave it in fourth all the way down the hill. No reason to go to fifth. All right, so we're gonna box this lap. I'll take the inside, thank you. Gonna go. Whoa, why were you braking there? A little extra room. Yeah, so I'm aiming for the start of that curbing as far as the apex there. And into the pits. So again, easy pit, just straight in, full throttle. The exit out, I mean, it's going to put you on. We're going to be put on the left side on exit. You know, setting up for turn 2. So I think for coming out of the pits, you know, you're kind of ideally set. The only concern is, you know, again, in traffic, if you're on the track and someone's exiting, just be aware of that. Depending that, you know, they might be, you know, on that left side, right where you would want to be for the next turn. So just gauge that accordingly. But you'll get released about there. I'm just going to hug to the wall to the left here, and then get back on the racing line at that point for the normal turn in. The nice thing is it does, you know, very easy to get up to third, and then you're set for the rest of the lap. And again, back tires. Not at the temperature, a little slidey there for the first couple of corners, but you know, by the time you're heading to the carousel, you should be okay there. Just ever so slightly slid there a little bit. You can hear the tire squeal kind of ramp up there. That's one of the indications that I know. Yeah, I'm sliding the rear end a little. So that's the move I like to look for. Maybe not quite crossing over at the apex of the corner, but definitely definitely, hopefully, getting a better run out of there where I can attempt to pass into the final hairpin. See if I can get some traffic between me and that Mustang. Spread it up a little bit. Nope, not going to have it there. I'll look for and again, because the AI is not going to hug the inside lines of the carousel, I might have an opening there. Let's see what he does. Similar handling, but then, yeah, they've got a little more straight line on them. Well, thank you. That was kind. That was not. Here, I have some grass. There you go. Serves you right. Did say questionable racecraft. Usually when I say that, I'm more talking about my racecraft, not the AI. There. Whoop. That was me not wanting to lift. Let's see how much of a run I get on this guy here. Not enough. If you're going to leave the inside open like that, okay, that was a narrower gap than I thought it was going to be. It could have been really bad. Yeah, I'm not going to get him here, but Alright, I'll fight you on the outside. Howdy. I was really wrong. A little bit of a run, but probably not gonna. Nope. Away. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Excuse me. Alright, 4 laps to go. About halfway through the field. That was a little rude, but keep flirting with those track limits there. Laps to go. I got cars. arrow working his way through there. Oh, I'm there. Thought about, like, do I want to try and go on the outside there? And like, nah, probably not a good idea. Probably. And not really close enough to follow the Camaro through there, but way slow. All right, we'll see. Let's see if this Camaro goes for the inside, and I can follow through. Nope. Not hearing any engine noise out of the Camaro. Whoa! The last lap. Definitely get sixth place here. We're close enough to get a top 5. Probably not, but let's see. Yeah, so in traffic there, you know, again, this is going to be a common theme with this car, I think. And on your own, there are going to be turns that probably are better done in third, just to help keep maintain momentum. But if you find you're getting in traffic, second is probably the better way to go. You don't want to get too. You want to try and keep this car in the upper rev. Can't talk. And I can't talk and drive. You want to keep the revs up. So, you know, on your own, there'll be places you'll be able to do that, maintain momentum, keep it in third. You may need to drop it to second if you get behind somebody. Oh, I've got a big run. Hey, that's that Clio. and that is Sonoma in the Honda CRX. Again, as I said at the beginning, I think this is a really good track to start with, as you're gonna get that understanding of what the back end of this car is going to do, how to kind of steer with the throttle a bit, and keep the car balanced. So again, I'm guesstimating it could be 18 to 20 laps depending on how Matt calculates out the time. And if you prefer to chase ghosts, I do have a ghost up on Sonoma Full in the CRX, and I think I did a 53.8 here. I think that one I did a 53.7. So it's right about where, oh wait, let's see. Yeah, 153.7 is what I did in Rival. So it should be a decent representation of kind of my pace, on my own would be in the race if I get into rhythm. So with that, I'm going to take a short break and then come back and do track guide for the second race for next Thursday, which will be Coda West at night. So hope you guys are having a good weekend so far, and happy racing.